I'm very lucky because almost exactly a year ago this happened, so thank God. But let's get started, shall we? To be honest, we have pretty reliable public transport in my country and reliable transport in general, so breakdowns are relatively uncommon. However, one time last year, I was traveling back home at Christmas and the train broke down, so that wasn't great. In more detail about where it happened, this was between Glasgow and Dundee on what must have been one of the coldest nights of the year. As it turned out, I'd picked the worst time to travel since there was a massive cold snap and a load of trains stopped working and got canceled. And then on top of that, a lot of people are traveling at that time of year, so I was stuck with a whole lot of people. So all of these cancellations meant that we were forced to wait for hours in this open-air train station with minimal heating while things got fixed and replaced. As for the when of it all, I'd just returned from a trip to Paris and was making my way home to be there in time for Christmas the following day with my family. So that means that this would have been Christmas Eve, to be exact, when the train broke down. So it's not the best time to get stuck anyway, since there are so few drivers and other staff available and the weather is bad anyway. But I had just chanced it, and things unfortunately didn't go my way. When it comes to who I was with at the time, I was actually by myself. I should have just stayed in Paris or Glasgow or something because my friends would have been nearby. So it was just me and my phone. I'd blown through all the books I had with me on holidays, so I didn't even have them to keep me amused. Still, at least I had some videos to watch online to take the edge off the cold and boredom, but I still wasn't very happy. I'm honestly at a loss for words as to why it did break down. I'm not really well versed in train mechanics, and I'm surprised they aren't built to withstand this kind of weather. Scotland is known for cold winters, and yet, every year, things like this are a problem. Not a huge one, but they're still a problem. Thank heavens, the people in charge managed to find a replacement train, or we'd have been stuck there overnight. But I made it back, and just in time for Christmas, too.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of private transport?
It seems like the most obvious plus points are things like convenience, since you can usually order things like taxis right to your door, and directness. You just point it in the direction that you want to go and you get to where you need to be, unlike with public transport where you might have a bit of a walk even after you get to the general area. I suppose when it comes to downsides, clearly cost is a factor because greater position will need more resources and you have to pay for them. Another negative aspect could be the environmental cost. I mean, if we just focus on cars, for example, then having lots of them will produce more emissions than just having a single bus, for example. So that could be a problem too.
Who likes to travel more, older people or younger people?
Well, in my country, older people get a bus pass so they can use public transport for free, or at least at a heavily discounted price. So I suppose they tend to get around a lot more. And then more generally, when you think about it, older people tend to have more money saved up so they could spend it on things like travel or things associated with travel, while younger people tend not to have such substantial reserves.
What do you think needs to be improved in public transport?
A million things. The maintenance and cleanliness could always be better, just because you see lots of litter or damage, and then it never seems to be very well run, or it's inefficient and wasteful. So better funding and a culture that is conducive to those things being addressed would go a long way to fixing them.
Are there fewer people using private cars because of improved public transport?
I mean, it's not that obvious one way or the other, to be honest. That's not exactly something you see being reported in the news, and you don't usually go out of your way to find out about it. At a guess, I would say that while it makes sense that this is happening, there seem to be ever more cars on the road, but that's just a feeling based on experience, and it's not a fact. It's just an opinion.
Do you think offering free public transport will solve traffic problems in the city?
It might. solve the problems of traffic congestion in some cases. However, some people, they're almost married to their cars. And the other thing is, if you give people something for free, they tend to treat it with a lot less respect, which has happened with bus passes in my country. So I don't know if it will solve these problems, and even if it did, it might create a whole host of new problems.
How will transport change in the future?
Actually, I answered a market research survey about this recently, and so apparently lots of new technologies are in the pipeline involving drones and remotely operated vehicles. So instead of getting a bus, people would be shuttled to and from wherever they get picked up and dropped off by small helicopters and things. That's something they're looking at.